suffered at the hands of the Arabs. May they speedily be vanquished. So yeah, there we go. That's what he describes living like under the Almohads. The usual Muslim response is, oh, well, the Almohads also persecuted Muslims. Well, that doesn't matter. It's an example of Muslims persecuting Jews. That's the whole point. I mean...
So the thing is, there are different ethnic groups that were in the Middle East. For example, Black Africans have been in the Middle East for thousands of years ago. The Islamic book even says Prophet Abraham, he had a female, he married a female slave, Hajar. So this is going really far back.
Hagar was Egyptian, yeah.
No, she was Ethiopian. In Islam,
no, Hagar was from Egypt. Even the Islamic sources, Jewish sources, all talk about how she was from Egypt.
Okay, so they had black slaves for a long time, but the black people within the Middle East, even after slavery, still did not have the status of the Jewish people. Even though the black slaves did convert, were Muslims, lived as Muslims, they still didn't have the level of prosperity as the Jews. So it seems like the Muslims did allow the Jewish people to prosper economically. Okay, there was a tax, and there was probably some Jews that couldn't afford the tax, but there wasn't. There were other groups that were oppressed in the Middle East.
I mean, nobody's denying that there were other groups oppressed in the Middle East. Just this we're talking about right now, specifically with Jews. And I already mentioned this earlier. Like the Jews that did live good were usually upper class and upper class societies. Like that's the thing. They're the ones who would usually live good under Islamic rule. It was always at the cost of the majority. Like scholars like Helena Schrader talk about this in an interview that a guy called Baba Speaker's Corners interviewed her on the Crusades and like that, and she talked about like when the Muslims were like ruling the Crusader states, and same in other places under Islamic rule, like in Spain and all that stuff. It was something used specifically, like the only ones living good were usually upper class Jews. You have it in the Ottoman Empire, sure, where they did live better compared to like most Islamic rulings and like that. But even in the Ottoman Empire, at best they were tolerated, and there's a difference between being tolerated and being given equal rights. So yeah, being treated equally.
They still had the dhimmi status, but like the Jewish quarter was most of the time built next to the castle of the bey or the Ottoman leader of that region, and they were kind of protected because they were serving by doing jobs that no one wanted to do and being successful in those. They were also protected by the bey or the chief. For their services. So it's like a 50-50 situation. They didn't have equality still, but it has been acquired that they would be protected by the leader because they were at the service of the caliph or the Muslim leader of the place. It's because they were useful.
I honestly think I'm not trying to be offensive to the Middle East, but quite frankly, if I had a choice of where to go, the last people I would live amongst is Arabs, because they seem to have a degenerate way of living. God forgive me, but when it comes to, I'll give you an example.
To criticize their own kind of things that they were brainwashed with. Once you lose freedom of speech, it is really hard to retain it because of these things. People cannot speak their minds, and if the government or the majority says something, they have to pretend that they agree. Otherwise, they will face consequences. And that kind of